Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. We got some more 2A news for you. We're going to get down the rabbit hole here. This is an article from GOA. It is entitled, Facebook Censors ATFs Gun Registry with Error Laden, USA Today Fact Check. This one was written by Aidan Johnston, the Daily Caller, published 14th February 2022. So not an incredibly new article, but I do want to jump into some of these things because this stuff is really out of control and there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about here. Before we get started, I would like to thank our friends at Firearms Legal Protection for supporting our videos. If you are ever in a situation where you carry a gun and you have to use a firearm for self-defense in a justified situation, it's probably one of the scariest things that a person will ever have to go through. So many emotions going through your head. You know, did I do the right thing? You know, all these things, right? So Firearms Legal Protection is a great service because it's a prepaid legal service that gives you the legal protection that you need to get out of this situation legally. Just because you survive the gunfight doesn't mean you're going to survive the legal battle that is going to ensue from it. So if you use the code IV8888, you can get yourself a discount on all the packages that they offer. So check them out. Firearms Legal Protection. Tell them we sent you. In a recent report, ATF admitted to Congress that it maintains nearly 1 billion gun and gun owner records. I mean, that right there, just in the beginning, that should have your eyebrows raising a little bit. But the agency's own admission didn't stop Facebook and USA Today from teaming up to fact-check and censor this news, which has shocked the Second Amendment community in recent weeks. Now found pinned below Gun Owners of America's Facebook post is a text box which states, missing context. Independent fact checkers say that this information could mislead people. And of course, they show an image here. You can check the description box below for this article. We'll put it down below there for you. But you know that that's been a commonly occurring thing, that Facebook has gotten more and more emboldened with this whole fact-checking thing. And in some cases, yeah, they're probably right in some cases, but in some cases they're not, right? Around Memorial Day of last year, for instance, our Facebook page was completely unpublished, and they wouldn't give us any reason. And we ended up having to go through all these different people to try to, get our Facebook page back. Like over 820,000 followers we have on our Facebook page, right? And even now, we do not have access to it anymore. Pretty much, it's gone. Right? Like they deleted our Facebook page. They will not give it back. They won't tell us what reason. So there's this sort of, issue that is in place, right? One of those issues is that, Facebook is acting like they're acting like a publisher and not like a platform. So if they want to have editorial guys over everything that goes on their platform, well, now you're not an open platform anymore. You're a publisher. So they're acting like a publisher, but they want the freedom of being an open platform, and that's not where this stops. The average Facebook user now might be inclined to click the link and see why, which redirects to a so-called fact-check article from USA Today rather than the full story from its original source. Interestingly enough, when scrutinized, USA Today's so-called fact-check, which labels our claim of a partial national gun registry as missing context. Indeed, by trusting in Facebook and USA Today, an individual is likely to walk away with the understanding that there is no searchable federal database or registry of guns or their owners, and that the ATF has only a few 100,000 such records. Neither of those understandings is correct. On the contrary, it is objective fact that the ATF admitted to lawmakers that it is currently maintaining a searchable database of nearly 1 billion firearm transaction records, which includes personally identifying gun owner information. This is precisely what gun owners are concerned about when they voice opposition to a national gun registry. Leading up to the 2020 election, Gun Owners of America similarly was censored by Facebook, working with the French government to cover up our reporting of the fact that Kamala Harris opposes the individual right to keep and bear arms. Facebook went so far as to label as fake news a link to the Harris amicus brief, which she filed in opposition to that individual right in the landmark Second Amendment D.C. versus Heller case. Similarly to Facebook censorship of GOA in 2022, this USA Today hit piece is in itself full of false and unsubstantiated claims. So the general idea, the concern if you will, is that these people have the ability to post whatever propaganda they want in place of whatever you've said, no matter how true or false it may be. If they simply just disagree with the message you're trying to put out, no matter how factual it may be, they want to be able to interject their own narrative that they hope people will just click through and go, well, that's what Facebook said it was, so I'm not going to do any more research. So basically, they're trying to spoon feed this information to people so that they won't think that that's a big deal, and they should be thinking it's a big deal. And then look at the situation with GOA getting censored by Facebook in 2020. Well, we were, completely out of here. Like our Facebook page is gone. We don't even have a Facebook page, and we don't even have the ability to fight it, right? And some of the talks that we've had with them have gotten us absolutely nowhere. They won't hardly give us a reason why they pulled our page. Oh, but the reason isn't because you're a gun channel or you post pro-2A stuff. That's not the reason. So that's what we're dealing with. But it just gives you an idea of how far down the rabbit hole this kind of stuff can go. All right, so I did abbreviate a few things in this section, but we're going to go through some of the claims that GOA is saying that the USA Today article is got totally wrong. I think you'll see coming away from this, the facts are pretty clear. All right, fact-checking the fact-checkers. False claim. ATF out-of-business records do not constitute a searchable database. USA Today first claims that ATF's out-of-business records, even though digitalized and scanned into a centralized computer system, do not amount to a searchable database. USA Today's own sources disprove its own claim that there is no searchable database. April Langwell, chief of the ATF's Public Affairs Division, refers to searching for records, and UCLA professor Adam Winkler states there is a searchable database. In other words, ATF maintains a database that it routinely searches, but in 5 instances, USA Today claims that this is not a searchable database. GOA rates this claim as false. Well, it's just a database, y'all. It's not a registry. It's just a searchable, field of information that we can just look up anything about any gun owner we want, down to what, guns they bought, when they bought them, what the serial numbers are, the make, the model. But don't worry, it's not a registry. It's just a searchable database. Wink, wink. All right, false claim. ATF's records do not constitute a prohibited registry. Yeah, because they don't call it a registry. They just call it a database. Next, USA Today claims at least 6 different ways the ATF's out-of-business records are not stored in a format consistent with a gun registry. Hilariously, USA Today engages in circular reasoning. Federal law prohibits a national gun registry. Remember when Chad and I made the video about your guns are not registered, and then this news broke maybe a week or 2 after we made that video, and then everybody went on that video and was trolling the crap out of us saying, see, you guys are full of crap. There is a registry. But understand, right, when you look at the situation, right, under the lens of, well, if the government is not allowed to do X, Y, Z, and it's generally accepted fact that they're not allowed to do that, then wouldn't one assume that if that's what they're supposed to be doing, that wouldn't you assume that they do what they're supposed to do, right? You wouldn't assume that they're creating a registry if they're not supposed to, would you? Well, then this news breaks, which, of course, yes, in that particular situation makes us objectively, yes, we are wrong. That video, the information we put out in that video is objectively wrong, but not wrong because we aren't good people and wouldn't assume that people are doing what their job is to do, right? And to uphold the Second Amendment, to uphold their oath of office, which includes, you're given certain powers, you're given this responsibility, and not to abuse that responsibility. That's not on us. That's on them for doing the wrong thing. How were we to know at the time that they were doing this? Okay? So federal law prohibits a national gun registry. Therefore, ATF's searchable database cannot be a gun registry. Of course, an agency's denial that it is not violating the law is hardly proof of its innocence. On the contrary, if this is not circular reasoning, it's hard to see what is. All right, missing context. ATF has hundreds of thousands of records. The fact that USA Today repeats its hundreds of thousands claim more than once indicates that perhaps this was not a grammatical error, but instead a deliberate attempt to deceive, you think? In total, ATF manages, wow, that's 920,664,765 records. Now, OBRs, which out of business FFLs, as of November 2021. This includes digital and an estimated number of hard copy records that are awaiting image conversion. It is currently estimated that nearly 900 million of those records are in digitalized format. All right, notice, remember when the ATF changed the 4473 to one page on the front, where it's got all of the information of the person that's transferring the gun and then all of the information about the firearm? Remember the old 4473, how it was on a separate sheet? So if they're not digitizing and scanning in FFLs in order to or 4473s in order to have a database, then why would they want all of that information on one page to make it quick and easy to digitize and quick and easy to search, right? How many people out there have used that software before where you can scan your receipts in and it helps you keep track of all of your expenses and stuff? It's the same type of thing. They can scan that document in, and then it becomes an editable and searchable document that I'm sure they can look for information within that database. Oh, it's not a registry. Don't worry. You're not registered, but you're just searchable. That's all. But they could literally look for any amount of words that they want, including a name, including a certain type of gun. They can literally sort this data once it's in there digitally by every single tiny factor they want. They could go, all right, how many people bought rifles or pistols? I mean, they could literally search any amount of random stuff they want. And when these documents are digitized, they can search for particular words. So a 4473 may not necessarily make the distinction between, let's just say, all right, an AR-15 specifically as a gun design and just a regular long gun. The way it transfers on a 4473 is a long gun, right? But in the field, you write the manufacturer of the gun, right? And usually the model, right? So they could search by Bushmaster, or they could search by, Armalite, or they could search by Daniel Defense, and then they would know every single person that bought a Daniel Defense product, which, I mean, hello, they make a very specific type of gun. So see, that's the type of fear that people have, and I think it's a well-founded fear. It's not an irrational fear, right, that's based on, oh, well, what could happen if they do this? Here's the thing. We're past that point. This isn't about, oh, what would happen if they had access to everybody's information. They have access to it and are currently seeking it out. Otherwise, why would they even bother to make the 4473 one page like that if it wasn't in the interest of digitizing and making a searchable database out of those forms? Gun Owners of America rates USA Today's claim as missing context. Now, that's in regards to the hundreds of thousands of records claim. Missing context. ATF database only includes crime guns or firearms used in a crime. Let's see. Similar to the misleading claim above, one of USA Today's experts misleadingly claims that ATF's out-of-business records database includes the names of purchasers of guns used in crime. Again, while this is technically true, the database does contain that information. The database, in fact, contains far more than that. It includes information about hundreds of millions of guns that were never used in any crime, and many as tens of millions of gun owners who have never committed a crime. Due to the inherently misleading nature of USA Today's claim, GOA rates it as missing context. All right, missing context. NRA says there is no federal gun registry. Next, USA Today quotes an NRA fact sheet from 2016 claiming that there is no universal gun registration or licensing requirement for individuals at the federal level to undermine GOA's comments about recent breaking news. The NRA has recently commented that the discovery of ATF's out-of-business database is understandably concerning and that the records maintained by the ATF could facilitate gun confiscation. Well, that's pretty cut and dry right there, okay? I think we can all agree that having any type of a database is a terrible idea. I don't care what the perceived law enforcement reasoning is for having access to a database like that. For one, they're not supposed to have a database or a registry. You can call it what you want, but at the end of the day, if they operate and work the same exact way, if a registry is a database and a database is a registry, and the only difference is what it is in name versus the intent and use that it's used for at the end of the day, does it really matter what it's called if it's used in that type of a situation or has the danger to be used in that type of a situation? All right, think about all of the crime data in terms of, look at the FBI crime statistics, all right, involving shootings, right? So you mean to tell me that you've got to have all this information for 1 billion plus people or 1 billion gun transactions or whatever? It just doesn't hold constitutional water, and it's certainly outside of the legal authority what they're supposed to be doing with that information. All right, missing context. ATF records can only be accessed during criminal investigations. On 4 occasions, the USA Today article claims out-of-business records may only be accessed individually to assist in criminal investigations. However, ATF's website provides a process by which a private citizen needing to obtain serial number of a stolen firearm purchased from an FFL, which has since been discontinued business. Further, the website reveals that ATF runs traces for any bona fide criminal investigation, meaning that the ATF assumes all trace requests are submitted pursuant to federal law in good faith rather than by authenticating each request. All right, so what that means is that in the big scheme of things, right, someone who has a hard-on for a particular person, right, that worked for the FBI could call up and say, hey, I need to run a trace on this particular firearm, which, of course, because there's a registry, a database, you know, they can obtain said serial number, right? They could do audits on people's guns within their own collections, and they don't even know it. And, of course, they're going to process the request because they're not going to go through and verify that it's actually connected to an actual law enforcement investigation or a literal, you know, criminal activity that would require access to that database, right? So that's what's so scary about it. It's just like the red flag confiscation orders, right? You know, a phantom court decides you're unworthy to have a gun, and all of a sudden you got a van full of people showing up, and you ain't never committed a crime in your life that you're aware of. You didn't even have the ability to speak for yourself to this phantom court, and they're just going to show up to your house and confiscate your guns, or try to, right? The same could be said about this de facto registry that exists here, right? They can call it what they want. At the end of the day, if it's weaponized in a way that is used like a registry would be used, well, then it's a registry, right? Especially if, say that you're a person that the ATF or the FBI or whoever has a real hard-on for, right? They can literally go in there and try to find some way to make your life a living hell, and you don't even know what's happening. You haven't committed a crime. You're not a bad person. You've never been in jail. You've never done a bad thing in your life. You've got a carry permit. You pass your background checks. You do your 4473. You do whatever, and you're as far as you know in your heart, you are just a guy or girl, whoever that owns a gun that's just trying to mind their own dang business. And all of a sudden, you've got this overseeing overlord looking under the hood and trying to find some way to make your life a living hell. It just seems, it's concerning to me that we're creating an environment where we want the government to have that ability over people. I mean, look at all this social credit score everybody keeps talking about and all this mess. Without going down that rabbit hole, it's crazy that as a society, when we look back in history and we see what these people have done to folks over the years on all sides of the political equation, right? Do we really want to give these people more power over our lives? Do you really want them having the keys to Pandora's box, having the keys to basically coming up with a reason to call you a criminal, right? What did the KGB used to do back in the day? You show me the man and I'll show you the crime. So this isn't about what is universally and let's just lawfully illegal or immoral. This is just about, hey, how can we weaponize something that we're not supposed to weaponize against someone who is completely unbeknownst to them. They don't even know what's happening. And that's a scary environment that we shouldn't support. And I guess that's the overall gist I'm trying to get forth in this particular video. But big thank you to everybody that watches our videos. Thanks for tuning in. I know this one was kind of long. There was a lot of stuff I wanted to cover, and that's not even the whole article. There's more information if you want to read it. Check out the link in the description box below. You can check this article out for yourself and do some more research on your own. But thank you for watching. Have yourselves a great week. Many more videos on the way. Big shout out to GOA for doing the right thing and keeping their ear to the ground. If you can support them in any way, I would definitely encourage that you do it. If you want to support what we do directly, you can go over to Ballistic Ink and pick yourself up a snazzy t-shirt. All those funds go right back into supporting our channels. Remember to use that code IV8888 if you do decide to go and partake of legal services with FLP. You can definitely save yourself some money there by using our code. So big thank you to everybody. Have a great week. Many more videos on the way. We'll see you soon.